Welcome to Arizona Barrio Stories. Thank you for being a part of this platform. Have you downloaded the app? Look for Latino USA TV. Arizona Barrio Stories has a lot of interviews you might have missed. Download the app. You want to be on it. Thank you for being a part of this. Today we have a revisit with Richard Castillo. We had him here about 3 years ago, but we want some updates, kind of follow his passion, what he's doing now. So listen up. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
We have, I think, evolved since 3 years ago. We probably had maybe 2 mics and maybe 2 cameras, so we're a little bit better off now. Thank you for rejoining us, and let's do a quick summary of a little bit of who you are, where you grew up. Tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southwest Phoenix, off of 31st Avenue in Van Buren, near Carl Hayden, maybe 4 blocks from Carl Hayden, 2 blocks north of Van Buren. Were
you a part of the Carl Hayden locals?
Well, I wanted to be, but I wasn't that tough. I can say my older brother probably was. But I didn't go to Carl Hayden. I went to West High School because of the gangs and drugs and stuff that were going on during that time. My parents and my brother had gotten in trouble and stuff like that at Carl Hayden, and my sister. So they said, "You're going to West High School." So I was bused on this. I took the bus every day to West High School.
So when you were at West High, what are some of the things that deterred you or kept you in line? Or was it the chancla at home? Tell me what kept you in line. What are the things that kept you on a good path?
I think the chancla at home was a big thing. My parents were very strict. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a preacher. My mom played guitar and sang for the church. We didn't grow up with the TV, so we were always outside doing things. My parents, well, especially my mother, didn't like us inside the house when she's cleaning. Either you clean or you go outside and play, and it's 120 degrees outside. So we found a lot of things to do. We had to be creative.
So at West High, were you involved in any clubs or sports?
At West High School, I did play sports. I did freshman football. I was a short, scrawny kid, so that lasted a semester. I quit. I couldn't handle it because they played me like 5 seconds for the whole time.
Take them out!
And so I decided to do soccer. I did soccer for 4 years, and before that I was active with the Pee Wee League baseball, Major League Baseball, all the way through junior high.
So those things kind of kept you on a good path.
Yes, and I was in band. I started in 4th grade playing the drums. My mother had bought me a Ludwig snare drum, which I still have to this day. And I joined the marching band at junior high, and we played at different schools, different parades. At West High, I did band maybe a semester, but I had quit only because the drum line was giving me like a cymbal to play, and it was boring. So I quit and just focused on studies and whatever else I was involved in at the time.
Tell me about your journey to college. As you entered college as a freshman, what was your mindset of, when I grow up, I want to be a...
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor, a medical doctor. But it didn't turn out that way. My influence was my mother. She became an RN at Phoenix College, probably when she was around 39, 40. She got pregnant a couple times, 14 years after she had 4 kids. There's 6 in the family. She had 2 more, and she had 1 while she was in college finishing up her RN degree. So she inspired me a lot into going into the medical field. And then I volunteered at the Veterans Hospital when I was 13. I also volunteered at St. Joe's. So all those things kind of made me want to go into medicine. What got me into college, I really didn't know how or what to do to apply. I didn't have... my dad was an 8th grade graduate, got his GED when he was 48 or 49 years old. So I didn't really have people to show me what I need to do to get to the next level. So what happened was, in my senior year, my last semester, there was a knock on my homeroom classroom, and a group of students were out there, and they had called for me, and I went out there, and they asked me do you know where you stand in, your standing is in this class of 1985? I said, no. And they said, you're number 4. I didn't know that. And they started, we're part of the Honor Society. We want to induct you into the Honor Society. Do you want to be part of it? I'm like, sure, why not? So after that, they are the ones that said, hey, have you applied for college? Have you applied for scholarships? And I was like, no, I don't know how. So they got me into the places where I needed to go to do that. So that's how I applied to ASU. And I applied for the Minority Student Recruitment Scholarship. Ed Dalsey at the time was the director of that.
You currently are a very well-respected attorney. You ended up becoming an attorney, but what we want to talk to you today about is your other passion. Lawyer by day, by night. Tell us what you do that is, I call it your passion.
It is my passion. If I could make money doing it, I would probably quit law.
Tell everybody what is it you do.
I do music. What happened is when I quit music in freshman year of high school and I went to college, I met a guy by the name of Patrick Murillo. And he was in a band called the Rasta Farmers, and I went to, I think it was called the Roxy at the time, and they had international reggae bands there, and he opened up for them. And I've seen him a couple times, and one time a friend of mine says, I know that guy. And then my sister says, I know him too. So I got introduced to him, and while I was in college, I would go to his house while they were practicing, and I asked him, I said, one day, I want to be in your band. I want to play the congas or something. And he goes, sure, you can do that. So about 2 years later, finished college, I finished law school, passed the bar, and I said, I'm ready. And bought me a set of congas, and I started playing. And and that was in about 95. About 90, I started getting more into it other than the congas. He started, Richard, I need a keyboard player. So he started teaching me how to play the keyboards. So, and I was already playing drums, so I was doing a lot of different instruments, and then I started getting interested in recording. And so I got my first 4-track in 1999 and started a studio called DJ Law Studio.
So your other passion, if I were to ask you today, what do you think you're going to be doing in 5 or 10 years? If you had a magic wand, what do you think would you like to do as far as not just doing the drums, but what else? Okay,
well, I produce, I do engineering work, so I'm actually at the controls. So when people are recording, just like they're doing here, I do the technicalities. I'm also a part of the arranging some of the music, editing, all that, and mastering the actual song. So I've produced at least 5 or 6 albums and some singles. They're on Amazon and Spotify and all that.
Go ahead and name drop. I mean, if somebody wants to look for it, what would they look under?
We've got Los Moranos that I've recorded an album for them, featuring Mario Moreno. He's a cousin of mine, of Arizona Blues Hall of Famer, plays guitar. The Rasta Farmers. I actually produced a CD, a Christian CD for my brother. He's a preacher. His name is Gilbert Castillo. We call him GJ. You look up Preacher J. That's what I have him listed as, and you can find the music, on Amazon or Spotify, whatever. What I want to do in the future, and 5-6 years from now, I hope I can semi-retire. I should be about 62 at that time, and I want to get more into the studio full time, record different artists, produce. I'm also thinking about having maybe a podcast and bringing in different bands, interviewing them and having them play in my studio, and I record them, sort of like what you guys are doing here, but with music. So just like a 5-10 minute interview, and then you go play a couple songs, and I produce it for them. So I'm thinking about that. So
lawyer by day, maybe producer, maybe drum player. So you have a lot. I mean, we know in this day and age some things aren't as lucrative, but hey.
But that's my passion.
That's your passion, and you never know.
So as a lawyer, it is nice because I get to fund my passion. So eventually I'd like to, make money at it, but it's hard to break into the music scene. When you're doing original music. A lot of the working bands, they're playing top 40s or music that people know, cover songs. We don't. We pretty much play original music. So it's tough to get in.
What has been your biggest obstacle, would you say, currently with wanting to fulfill that dream?
The obstacle is really just the money and the time, because even if I have the money to do certain projects, I still have to have the time, and I have to go make the connections. That's tough. But if I had more time, I would be able to do that. Go more into the business part of it versus the producing, and get into the business and make connections. Hey, get this on the radio, do, you know, those types of things.
Have you bought a wig yet with trenzas? I don't know what you call it.
The dreadlocks?
The dreadlocks.
I've had one just to mess around, but I don't wear it.
Before we close out the show, tell me a memory, a barrio memory, from when you think back to your roots, your old barrio, your old neighborhood. What is something that comes to mind that makes you smile?
I enjoyed growing up in our neighborhood because I remember it's different today. People were outside more. People interacted more, the neighbors. There was
you knew your neighbors.
Yeah, and you know, now, I mean, where I live now, nobody comes outside. So a lot of people that are not in the barrio are not out. They're in their own seclusion. Whereas when I was growing up, people were outside. You know, we had swamp coolers back then, so you know, it got hot in the house too. So, but there was more neighborly friendliness, and you know, I remember like my mother making tortillas on a comal, and the neighborhood kids coming over and stuff like that, smelling the tortillas, freshly made, and they'd come over before school, and she'd put butter on their tortillas, and went to school all happy. You know, I remember those days.
I can almost smell it. Richard, thank you for revisiting us. Thank you for being a part. You were a part of us in the beginning, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you for believing in our mission. And maybe in a couple of more years, when you're semi-retired, you'll come back and give us some updates.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a special time for me.
Thank you from Arizona Barrio Stories. You have a story too. And like I always say, don't let anybody tell your story. Your story is waiting for you to tell it. Don't forget, download our app. And as usual, we will see you soon.